Banana chemistry. Mira's fiery discovery. In the quiet town of Seraton, midnight was sacred. Street lamps glowed under a silver crescent moon, casting long shadows across the still grounds of Seraton Secondary School. At exactly midnight, a strange, sweet, and unnaturally strong aroma drifted from the chemistry block like overripe bananas mixed with bubblegum. It slipped through cracks in the locked door, creeping into empty hallways. The lab was hidden at the far end of the science block, sealed with blinds, chained shut, and coated in dust. Even the janitors avoided it after dark. Sometimes, pink vapor hissed out from under the door, glowing faintly before fading into the night. Animals stayed away. So did people. Students whispered about a teacher who vanished inside, leaving only a scorch mark and a torn journal page with impossible chemical equations. Mira, 13, curious and fearless, with a ponytail and glasses, loved chasing mysteries. One cold Thursday night, she slipped through the school gate, flashlight in hand, lab coat over her uniform. Inside, the dusty lab smelled of chemicals and mold. Torn posters hung from the walls, moonlight spilled through broken vents. On a counter sat a dusty flask labeled ethanol, Yione HRSOC, Yione A. Mira quickly copied the formula into her notebook. A brown glass bottle marked pentanol sat nearby, its rim crusted with dried amber liquid. She put on gloves. She recognized it in esterification reaction, just like in her textbook. Heart racing, she decided to finish the experiment. Mira, 13, with neat black hair and oversized glasses, set a round bottom flask on the tripod. In rubber gloves, she measured ethanol, concentrated sulfuric acid, and the pentanol bottle, the liquids shimmering in torchlight. Wearing her navy pinafore and long lab coat, she assembled the distillation setup. The Bunsen burner flared, glass tubing fogged, and the mixture bubbled like a potion. White vapor rose from the flask, curling like a ghost in the cold air. The sweet, banana-like scent thickened with every second. Aroma became unmistakable synthetic bananas, overripe and sugary. Mira stared in awe, realizing she had found the source of the midnight smell. Mira leaned forward over the flask, her glasses slightly fogged and cheeks flushed with heat from the flame, and muttered under her breath, "That's bananas." Literally. Her voice echoed softly in the empty lab, as if the room itself was amused by the discovery. She couldn't help but crack a smile, her black ponytail bouncing slightly as she turned to jot the result into her notebook. The chemical mystery that had haunted the school for weeks now had a name and a smell. But something suddenly shifted in the air. The scent, once intriguing, now grew heavier, cloying, and too intense to be natural. Mira, still standing by the distillation apparatus in her oversized lab coat, felt a strange pressure behind her eyes, like the beginning of a migraine. The fruity smell turned sickening, like fermented sugar and plastic. The silence in the room was now thick and uneasy, the kind that comes before a storm. The overpowering sweetness became unbearable, making Mira's head swim as she stumbled back, knocking into a stool with a loud clatter. The chemical scent felt like it was sticking to her skin, her tongue, her very thought. Her gloved hands trembled slightly, and her breathing grew shallow. The smell had gone from banana to something twisted chemical, sharp and wrong. Mira, the 13-year-old student with round glasses now slipping down her nose, staggered back toward the opposite table. Her vision blurred slightly as she reached out to steady herself. A bead of sweat rolled down her temple despite the cold night air. As she turned, her elbow accidentally collided with a metal container resting on the edge of the counter. The tin container tipped over, its lid flying open with a loud clang. A dull silver lump of sodium metal rolled out, catching the light as it bounced once on the floor. Mira's eyes widened in horror as the reactive metal skidded straight toward a beaker of water left half filled on a side table. Her mouth opened to shout, but it was already too late. The sodium metal dropped directly into the water with a violent hiss. Within seconds, the beaker shook violently as the metal fizzed and danced across the surface. Sparks erupted in bright flashes like mini fireworks. The heat built up so fast that the hydrogen gas released from the reaction caught fire. A sudden explosion rang out. Boom! As a flash of flame burst from the top of the beaker, sending glass shards clinking onto the lab bench. Mira screamed and ducked, her white lab coat fluttering as the force of the blast threw papers into the air. A tiny fireball swirled upward, its orange tongue licking the ceiling for a moment before vanishing. The lab filled instantly with dark smoke, curling thick and black like a veil over Mira's terrified face. Her small frame was silhouetted against the chaos, arms raised to shield her head. Red emergency lights flickered on automatically, and the sharp ring of the school fire alarm shattered the silence. Red alarm lights flashed through the smoke-filled lab. 13-year-old Mira stood frozen by a smoldering beaker, her black hair loose, glasses smudged, and lab coat scorched. She clutched her chemistry notebook to her chest. The lab door burst open. Mr. Harris, her chemistry teacher, rushed in, coughing half-dressed, clearly woken from sleep. He froze at the scene. Mira standing amid the wreckage, the smell of ester thick in the air. "Mira?" he began, then stopped. The artificial banana scent was unmistakable. Mira, soot-streaked and wide-eyed, managed only a breathless, "Hi, sir." Mr. Harris glanced from the burnt setup to the guilty girl. "Did you try to smell the esters?" he asked, half in disbelief. Mira nodded, the sweet banana vapor still clinging to her. "It smelled like bananas," she muttered. Mr. Harris laughed, shaking his head. That's isoamyl acetate, artificial banana scent. I was saving it for the science fair. Mira blinked, then grinned. Both teacher and student, covered in soot, began to laugh in the smoky, ruined lab. The smell came from an esterification reaction, acetic acid and pentanol, with sulfuric acid as a catalyst producing isoamyl acetate, the artificial banana scent. This ester is common in flavorings and perfumes. Mira's heating sped up the reaction, releasing vapor and explaining the midnight aroma. The explosion was separate, caused when sodium metal touched water, producing hydrogen gas and heat. The heat ignited the gas, creating a fireball that triggered the alarms and summoned her teacher. In chemistry, even pleasant smells can lead to explosive surprises. Mira had learned that firsthand. Curiosity brought both danger and discovery and solved the school's midnight mystery. Standing in the empty lab, hair frizzy and cheeks soot-streaked, Mira's notebook was now filled with more than notes, it held real experience. Smiling to herself, she whispered, "Next time, I'll wait for the science fair." But in her eyes, the spark for science burned brighter than ever.